Hello and welcome. This is another episode of Tempo Time, and I'm here with two dear friends who are just as alive as I am after the Indiana Fever visited the Toronto Tempo for apparently not just a game, but an event, as described by some reporters. But first off, I'm just going to introduce everyone here. Close personal friend of Sean Desmond, Chelsea Late of TSN. Chelsea, how are you?
I mean, thriving after last night. Tempo did not win, but at the same time, now I'm besties with Sean Desmond. So how can I complain?
And welcoming to the show, one of my favorite writers and friends, someone who I got to go to two, what feels like almost like opposite games at Scotiabank Arena. One against the Minnesota Lynx and one last night as media for the Indiana Fever. Katie Heindl of Basketball Feelings, how are you?
I'm good, my dude.
Yeah.
I have like a minor claim to fame, a little bit less than Chelsea, but I did get the first high five from Des.
We're going to talk about it
mascots.
when we talk about the
Period.
mascots, but we'll definitely break down the reconnaissance mission that we went on to meet the mascots, to take photos of the mascots.
Yes, I need to hear about this.
To maybe almost, I don't know, maybe I could have gotten banned from the arena for the level of following around that I did.
No, it
but
matched the excitement, I think.
I think it very much did.
You were
And
boots
yeah,
on the ground. Boots on the ground.
Boots on the ground. People asked what I was doing there. I normally have my season tickets, but I went in as media with a credential, and they're like, so, like, big event, you're covering it? I'm like, yes, because the mascot's here, and I really want to cover what's going on. But
Tempo
yeah,
Time viewers want to know. You were boots on the
Temple Time
ground.
Boots on the ground.
We're here for our viewers.
It was an interesting game and day, I would say, or even the past couple of days. Let's try to talk about the actual game itself first. So the Tempo, they fall short of narrowly losing to the Indiana Fever. I think one of those games, I don't know how it's felt for the two of you, but it feels like the Tempo are keep on edging more and more into like really like being in the game, even potentially winning it. I think a lot of the help players coming back into the mix has helped. Slim returns after how many games, or just the longest
18.
time away? 18 games, thanks, Chels. And in limited minutes, but like 21 limited minutes doesn't feel like was able to put together a stat line of 15 points, 5 assists. Anissa Morrow with a franchise high 16 rebounds to go with 14 points. I think all in all, can't be mad with the product, but like the game itself, Fever in town, all of that. We'll start with you, Chels. Like, how was it watching the game and just like actually seeing a pretty competitive product?
Yeah, I was impressed with the defense, which I don't think we've been able to say very often this season for the Tempo, especially with Slim out. But yeah, I was impressed with her coming back. I mean, she did say she was bartering for more minutes throughout the game and ended up getting 21. So classic Slim in that regard. But it was nice to see her come back. Nice to see her kind of obviously not play, obviously, because usually she plays like a full game, stat line. She's averaging 20 points a game before the injury. So obviously she's going to ramp up a bit, but just to see that was the first game back and just like, I don't know, I was kind of sitting there yesterday as someone who has been following this league for a long time and obviously waited for this team for a long time specifically, just being like, okay, like this is one of those moments this season where you're like, okay, we have a team, this is really cool, this is hype, 19,000 in the arena, mascot reveal, like it was they did pack a lot of good stuff into one night. And like Brondella was saying, she wanted the game itself to be better than the Lynx game, just from a fans are paying to be there and you want to give them a good show perspective. And I think they lived up to that. And there was a few things last night where I was like, okay, you can kind of see the improvements and what they're trying to work on. The rebounding was a lot better. They were trying to be more disruptive to the Fever's offense. And yeah, I feel like a few things worked. Obviously, you don't get the win in the end, but at the same time, now you're second in draft odds. So that is a win in itself.
We will get to that part too later on in the show. But Katie, as I mentioned, we've gone to 2 games together at Scotiabank Arena, and even in talking across them, there's always like a moment for us where we're kind of texting like, might be the comeback. This might be the one right
They're in
here.
it.
Here
They're
come the
doing it.
Raptors.
Here come the Raptors, right? And it was funny. Like, I think we're definitely tongue in cheek about it, but like there was something that felt very tangible about this one. Like, as the third quarter was happening and we were scrambling around and coming off the high of meeting the mascots, were you starting to feel confident like they could actually pull this one off?
Not at first. Like when I sent you that text, I think it was like midway through the third. I was like, see, I still feel like they're in it. They were down at that point like 20 plus.
Right.
And it just kept slipping. And then like the energy just started to rumble and kind of crackle through the arena. They were like chipping away at it. And it was at like maybe like last 2 minutes, they brought it to within 10, then like 6 and 4. And like that was the part where I was like, okay, what's changed? Not just since the Lynx game,
Right.
certainly since like the home opener and just like the beginning of the season, is it's a team that's like better able to not just like hang on for dear life to the lead, but command the lead and change the pace a little bit. There's still some sort of like sloppy, like I don't think Marina Mabry was like that stoked on her execution, and there was like a good moment between her and Sandy where like Sandy was just kind of like, and she was like she knew she'd kind of messed up the possession, and that's what ultimately lost them the game. But I think those blips are coming farther apart, and I think just like the ability to close out games now, which a lot I think is just coming from, we touched on injuries a little bit and experience gelling all together, and just like who's doing what at what time of the game, like these little things that I think you take for granted when a team is fully functional and has been around each other for a long time. But yeah, I'll say like through this game compared to that Lynx game, a lot more consistent. And it's weird. I was thinking about this. It's not like the Fever lack the disruptors that the Lynx do, though nobody really goes downhill quite like Olivia Miles does and just like plows through the paint. Nobody's really able to do that.
I think it's worth noting that Kelsey Mitchell did leave the game at the fourth quarter, and that, I mean, for the first three, I think we got to find out in person why so many players in the league say Kelsey Mitchell is one of the hardest players, if not the hardest player to guard in the league.
Did you guys find it? I had some pals reach out. Sabrina Merchant reached out and was like, was it extra hot in the arena? Because on the broadcast, I guess they were talking about the heat.
In here too. Yeah.
But I was like, I mean, it felt normal to me.
Yeah,
Okay.
like I was wearing a full suit and I'm like a sweaty girl to begin with. So like the fact that I was a little warm, I was like, okay, but this is normal. Like I'm sweating right now just sitting here, right? So it's like I didn't think, I mean, we're usually there in the winter, so I feel like I don't have a good gauge of like how the arena, I don't know, it didn't feel suffocating to me.
No. And it's not like it's not in use,
Yeah.
right? Like it's not like, I was like, I guess someone just maybe didn't turn on the AC in time, but like there's shows rolling through that place like all summer long. So
Yeah.
Absolutely. I wonder if for those of us, because media gets in a couple hours earlier than the fans and like doors open, in the rehearsals for the mascot coming out, apparently the like smoke from which they came out through set off like a fire alarm. So there was a moment pre-game where it almost seemed like the actual game itself could be in dire
There was two separate fire alarms. Also, Zolfi's given us the real report in here in the comments, saying that he did hear that there was something not working properly. But yeah, so I don't know exactly what time. This probably would have been at like 3:30 or 4 o'clock. The first fire alarm went off. We were in our green room, so like I was there. I don't know, I'm always there super early, so that one went off, and we were all just sitting there like, do we need to evacuate? And nobody told us anything, so like we just were chilling. But that was the first one, and then the second one happened around like 5 o'clock during Sandy's first press conference, and then
actually stopped the press conference. It was like that was the final question because the alarm was going.
The alarm was going off, and then we're all waiting for the Caitlin Clark press conference to happen, and everybody's kind of freaking out because they're like, "Oh my God, Caitlin Clark has a press conference! Turn off the fire alarm." Apparently, there was someone overheard saying like, "I don't care if there's a fire. Caitlin Clark has a press conference. Turn off the alarm." So Yeah, so there was, yeah, that was the second one. So I don't know what was going on. There was a few things, I guess, Scotiabank Arena. I mean, all three of these Scotiabank Arena games have had something going on.
Sure.
So, I mean, the first one was like huge tech issues with the broadcast. I mean, the second one, I mean, it was just what was happening on the court. And I mean, the first one too is when Marina was a late scratch. And then the third one is the fire alarms and the heat and the lack of AC. I don't know. We're having a time at Scotiabank Arena.
It happens, yeah, and it is kind of funny to experience it because, like you both mentioned, like we've covered the Raptors for such a long time, but just never have covered Toronto basketball at this time of the year. So it was like really hard to gauge, is this actually that what's going on or what's happening? But no, there were notable, like I think even some fans in the comments here had mentioned like the AC and everything, and like I could feel the humidity, all that was going on.
But you feel that in Coca-Cola all the time. Like when I'm in Coke
Coca-Cola, there are like certain points where like it's very jarring.
It's very, very humid. And I think the thing with Kelsey Mitchell too that people might not remember is like she went down with she had, I forget the actual like name for it's like rhabdomyolysis something. Runners get it a lot, but it's like when you're very dehydrated and you get like your muscles kind of like I'm not explaining.
Just cramp.
Yeah, exactly.
Just cramp and you can't uncramp them.
Exactly. So she had that happen last season during a game, like late in the season, and so obviously the Fever are probably trying to make sure that she is hydrated and not overheated, and that's probably the reason for pulling her, with her having the history of that happening. So that didn't surprise me when I heard that they were probably being more precautious than anything, but obviously you want to make sure the players are okay. But yeah, I mean, I didn't notice. And maybe, I mean, they're probably, yeah, see, Zolfi again, he's just killing it in the comments here. So yeah, so they just want to make sure that she's okay, and with her history of that. So it made sense to me that she got kind of pulled because of that.
No, for sure. And yeah, to go back to like the play itself and like what Katie was talking about, I think it's a really good point about just, you know, those blips feel like further apart. It feels like the things that you can accumulate together and say like, okay, this is why the game became out of reach, or this is why the tempo just didn't have enough at the end to come back. And so it is encouraging. And I think like a lot of it too, ultimately, like, is the return of Brittany Sykes. And people were asking, like, I am wearing a Brittany Sykes
t-shirt
I
was with
that
you
I bought.
when you copped
You were
that.
there.
I
yeah.
saw those after. I was like, those are sick.
Yeah, they have one. These are the Playa Society tees. They have one for Brittany and also for Marina Mabry, which I saw at the end of the night, which was helpful because then I didn't just run and grab that one as well because they were closing shop. But no, I think one thing that became very apparent especially during this now 11 game losing streak was just the lack of some sense of stability, like especially defensively, but even like on both ends of the floor. And at any given point during the a game, I will text any of my friends who are watching and say like, I really miss Slim. And sorry, yeah, go ahead.
No,
Charles.
I'm just kind of reacting to something. We got some breaking news in the Twitter that has nothing to do with the tempo, but is WNBA. Neko Ogumike is retiring after this season.
Oh wow.
That's
Yeah.
surprising.
Yeah, that's
that
wild.
feels like kind of on track, and but yeah, no.
Wow, wild.
definitely get to
Anyway,
talk about
sorry.
that as it gets
I
there.
literally
No,
just
no, not
opened
at
my
all.
phone and the algorithm gave me that because it just happened. She's doing a exclusive with Taylor Rooks, and it
Okay.
just popped up on my screen, and I was like, okay, we have to mention that because that's very significant. But shout out to NECA,
sure.
and I'm sure we'll talk about that more when the season ends. But
Most definitely. Yeah, but no. So Slim is back, and it feels like it already kind of just like plugs a lot of holes, even in limited minutes. But just like having the presence on the floor. Katie, I'll start with you. You know, it felt like a different team in a different game with Slim out there. Like, did you notice anything yourself, like in terms of the differences of just having her back in the lineup?
It's that direction I was mentioning, like not to knock Marina, but like I think just a very vocal, present leader and like a bit of air traffic controller, especially when if things have like are in danger of getting a little bit sloppy or out of hand down the stretch. Like she just keeps everything very in hand, right? And she's a very cool driver with that. And I think for me, that's what clicked. And I think for me, that's what has been missing through a lot of just the executional kind of snags throughout the season. Yeah, man. And I think like she has the capacity to bring everybody up to that level with her, not just in terms of execution, but I think also energy, tenacity, I will say. Like the Fever are a tough team to guard. And I know the Tempo, not the strongest on defense, to be polite, but there were stretches where like that looked a little bit reversed, like they were hounding, the Fever. And I think a lot of that comes down to Slim. And like very selfishly, it was just like it was very sick to see her back on the floor. And I think at that Lynx game, Jerome, like her between her and like Fees, like I'm like, oh, that would have been like such a good, I don't know, like head to head. But I don't know. It's cool that she's back. I think she just brings a lot of like what they wanted, and you can clearly see the vision of what the Tempo was scouted and built for when she's on the floor, right? Like that trickles down to everybody.
Yeah, and Chels, like, I feel like we noticed it already, like, as the practices were going on. There was the open practice that happened on the weekend, which, much to the delight of myself and I think some fans, was an actual practice. Like, we really got to see them break down everything and really got to see a lot of the full court action and the difference that Slim makes. Like, Katie just talked about it. I think the communication's been really key. We got to hear from both Sandy and Slim pregame, and Slim had talked a lot about not really the physical recovery, but like a lot of the mental recovery. I think she mentioned therapy being a big part of it, trying to figure out where she is in her career and like what that means on that front for, not just for herself, but I think this kind of larger role that she has taken on this year because of like the larger salary and being a focus on the team and being a leader. And so you can see that she was like really conscious about not just like getting herself right, but like really helping her team get there. But like anything to add on like what Katie was saying in terms of just Slim's return, what you saw out there, and even just like what we heard from the team?
Yeah, I mean, Slim told us yesterday at some point that like she was still being very vocal in the locker room, despite being out, and just still trying to make sure that she was out on the court, but she wasn't out as the team's leader and out as their veteran, and making sure that her presence in the locker room never changed, despite the fact that she missed 18 games. And I mean, love hearing from her that, she really took a different approach to this recovery as opposed to other ones. Yeah, went to therapy, did all that stuff, like, period, queen, same. But, it just, you can see immediately how much she changes their energy and how much confidence she gives them. And it's nice to see that. And I think it just adds another layer to this season as well. Like, obviously, this season has been quite a roller coaster, but at the same time, we've talked about this a lot, how it's never really been about the wins and losses that we'll remember, but these moments that have really solidified the team and solidified the identity and solidified the fan base. And I think last night was one of those moments, just welcoming her back and really just solidifying her importance to this first season, her importance to this franchise in their early years. And I mean, that was why she wanted to come here. She specifically came to Toronto because she wanted to have that kind of legacy as a first, part of the first team, part of the expansion, part of the integration into Canada. And so it's cool to, see her be able to have that comeback, that moment. And I hope that,
it was a great ovation.
Her. Yeah, exactly. And she like was so vocal about it too. She said it gave her chills. Like, that's really cool.
That's right.
And so that's a great moment for her, for us, for, fans,
No, absolutely. I mean, it was like kind of funny because like there was no necessary like script to what last night was going to end up being, like big return, new mascot. And then, I mean, the part that we'll touch upon here as much as we want to, Katie, you and I, again, I mentioned this, and I think it's purposely because of like kind of what can feel like the stark contrast, like went to two different Scotiabank games. We were at the Lynx game. We sat together. We really like took in the environment, which was really great. And I think it's been said so many times on this show and from fans and from people around how amazing the tempo environment is. And then we just didn't know what we were going to walk into yesterday. Like we just weren't sure. And thinking about like sitting next to you in the stands of the game, and then yesterday standing pre-game on the Indiana Fever shoot-around side, and you know, not to sound dramatic about it, feeling a little bit surrounded. You know,
I don't think that's dramatic. That's very accurate.
and so, you know, there's obviously, like, for anyone who follows the WNBA and follows along with the Fever in particular, there's been, like, a lot of narrative, not narrative, what's the word? It's so hard. Sophie Cunningham has been at the center of a lot of, like, transphobic comments that have, like, literally bled out beyond, like, the WNBA itself, but brought in a lot of bad faith actors to try to insert themselves in a conversation that has just never been an issue for the WNBA as a whole. Like, it just became a blown out issue that has, you know, taken away from the actual, like, real joy that has been this season, the amazing players that have come in, the amazing players that continue to be there. And so it's kind of become this, like, traveling circus of the Indiana Fever, that wherever they are, whether it's at home or visiting somewhere, like, a lot comes with it. And I think we not only experienced it last night, but also I think experienced it in the days leading in. Like, I've seen, you know, stories from any of the media members that attended pregame, and we know, like, you know, the media presence for the Tempo is building. There are a lot of consistent people, but then there were so many new faces showing up specifically for this game. But to try to ground it, I think we'll start with that shoot around and standing around and maybe sharing a little bit of our experience. Like, Katie, like, we stood there together. How did it feel being in that space or in that moment?
There's a tension, right? Like, there's a real palpable difference. And I think, like, Fever fans really do travel. So, but I also at the same time, like, I'm not going to place this at the feet of American fans who've come and are kind of bringing different
not at all.
ideologies with them, right? And different polarizing ideologies with them, because Canadian fans are fans of the Fever, Caitlin Clark as well. The Sophie Cunningham, like, I know we're kind of like talking around it, but I will say, like, if by now you don't really have a good grasp of what it is, like, it's sort of your responsibility. You can Google it and we can talk more about it. She is the engine at it. Like, I don't think it's, like, very helpful to think that she's passive anymore at this point. Like, she understands that there's a huge audience that I think are now using, to your point, Jerome, the W as a Trojan horse, right? To bring very far right, like, fear-mongering, essentially, and politicization into the league, because they see it is a great time to capitalize on the visibility of the league, the money in the league, the audience that's paying attention. They're just using it as a mouthpiece, basically. So I think for a while, Sophie has gotten away with kind of playing both sides and being a bit passive, like, make it a little bit of, like, comments that are clearly you can read into that are transphobic, but then also coming back and saying, like, no, I love everyone. I support, like, all boys and girls watching WNBA basketball, when it's like, well, you can't really play both sides of it. And you certainly can't with this audience. At some point, they're going to get a little bit more rabid and want her to make a more declarative statement. And you can see the slow build of it. I think, Jerome, the weirdest thing was you and I were watching when Caitlin Clark stepped out onto the floor. There were no cheers, like, for her warm-ups. They weren't cheering. When Sophie did, and we had left that part of the floor by then, we could still hear it from the other side of the floor. Like, people were very excited
for sure
to see her just warming up, right? And so I did think, like, okay, what's the tenor going to be throughout the game? And I'd say, like, when she was when she, like, subbed in for the first time, it was probably like 70% boos, but still, you know, a good amount of cheering.
It was interesting. It was, like, very like. Yeah, I would say it was a strong boot to always start, and then as it trickled out, you would then hear the cheers.
Yeah.
Like, a very good example of it would be anytime she was at the foul line. And very similar to, like, any opponent that's at the foul line, they always hear boos, but obviously it was a bit, like, the volume was turned up on this one. And it would show that once you heard, like, the loud boos coming down upon Sophie, if she makes the free throw, then you start to hear, like, kind of very, like, the trickle of like cheers that come in through there. And I think I'm the experiencing the pregame kind of built up the tension of wondering what was going to go on. So, like I wouldn't call it a relief necessarily, but there was just like okay, like
It was almost like reclamation. Didn't you feel like that as the game
Sure.
went on? And like I think the boos got more pronounced, and I think and like I don't know, like Toronto fans, we are kind of notorious for this. You just kind of like politely wonder what's going to happen and maybe watch and observe,
Absolutely.
and then by the end, like I think it was way more vocal anytime she had possession, anytime she had a free throw, right?
Yeah, and
We
you would
saw-
see it also like in the form of like you saw people bring flags in.
Well, yeah,
in
when like
support of
that, I
trans
think was
rights.
the loudest cheer of the night, right?
Yeah, because
Trans lives are human
I
rights
miss
coming
it, but
on the Jumbotron.
It came up on the jumbotron, and I think like that. I mean, one thing it's nice to even know that there would be a space that would be put on the jumbotron, and then also like be fully embraced. And I think, like you said, it was one of the loudest like cheers of the night, which is great because it was funny. We both saw the flag also just in person at the end of the game. Like I went down and thankfully I was around it and I like went to go take a photo of it and I got to send it to you. What I didn't like share in any way was like right behind me as I'm taking that photo is
yeah, I
a
saw that
large
flag.
Sophie Cunningham
Yeah.
like printed out flag, and I
Yeah.
didn't even bother to read what it was said because like you can only assume what like the same stuff that has been like kind of spewed out this whole time. But there was just this funny feeling of people like are really just treating all that as noise, and I appreciated like to a degree like that it was very much so like people wanted to come in do all this, but it seemed for the most part and in a way that felt great was that the Toronto Tempo fans were out here like really representing the other side of it. So yeah, but it was interesting. Like I think there was almost like I hate to say it, a sense of dread going into today. I think talking to most
Absolutely.
people,
Yeah.
Huge.
yeah, like there's there was just like a team that should not be named, names that should not be named, like going in and to see, there was like I'll say it, there was a sense of relief to kind of just like hear the boos. Like I'm not really condoning that kind of vitriol for anyone, but to just kind of know where the thing that you decided to embrace as a fan like stands where it does.
Yeah. I will say a lot of, because I know people on various ends of the WNBA spectrum, and I do know there are a lot of people who were introduced to the WNBA through the Indiana Fever, which is fine, like,
Sure.
obviously that was a big moment, who are not necessarily as tapped in and don't really understand, and that's their obviously, like, I'm not condoning this, but like I'm saying there's a lot of people who are fans of the Indiana Fever from a very casual standpoint who maybe aren't as tapped in to the like social politics of it all and the controversy and why Sophie Cunningham is getting these boos. And so I do think we could like maybe attribute some of those cheers, not all of them obviously, to people just like being there and not knowing anything about what's going on with her and just being excited to see this team. Obviously there's the bad faith people who are there cheering because they want to, support what they want to support. But at the same time, like I did have a moment where I was like, okay, like, because I had a friend I was talking to, and she was kind of like, yeah, I didn't even realize this was a thing until like a week or two ago. And so like, and then now it's kind of like, oh, I used to like Sophie Cunningham. Now, like, obviously I've educated myself or whatever. So I do think there's probably a lot of people who that was the case as well.
There are definitely people slow to catch up, and I think that's why like you'd want to urge kind of what Katie was saying earlier of just like at this point it is so prominent that like you just have to kind of go like make the point of learning like what's going on, understanding the issue itself. Well, the issue that isn't an issue itself, and just like
I will say,
go ahead.
Sorry, not to interrupt you. I will say the coincidence of introducing, and we'll get to the mascots, but introducing your she/they mascot during this particular game was a little
no, for sure.
funny.
Yeah, and I think the thing that you're touching upon there, which is, you can be a casual fan of anything, like whether it be like an athlete, an artist, or anything like that. But there was like a moment that really hit me, especially for how heightened everything around Sophie Cunningham is, and not in a way to like denigrate her, but it's just, I thought to myself, if you did a video, like for example, right now there's like everything about Kawhi Leonard maybe coming back to the Raptors. So you would probably like see videos from the Raptors about fans saying like what their favorite Kawhi Leonard moment is, what their favorite play is, like what is something that they love about him as a basketball player. I had this curiosity last night when I was talking to my friend after the game and being there. It was just like, if you did a video about Sophie Cunningham and said like, and just separating and not even touching upon anything that she has said outside of the court and just be like, what is your favorite Sophie Cunningham play? I don't even know what the response would be from like the large fan base that shows up and goes out of their way to like buy their jersey and like cheer loudly for them at a game. And I think that's kind of like where it really does get lost in a plot. Like the silly analogy that comes to mind is, you know, well, I don't really support that. Like, you'll see people like a Gen Xer or a millennial like get mad at a young person in a Nirvana team and be like, name 5 songs, you know? And it's just that idea of like, yeah, if you see someone like who goes out of their way and pays their money and like wants to support this player, and like maybe, you know, Sophie Cunningham has been in the league for a long time, like could build that fan base. Like there is this point where we are at right now where I'm like, wait, but why do you actually like the player? Especially as she is like saying right now, like she wants to like focus on the on-court product and things like that. But no,
but that's
I think
the sus part, Jerome. Like
Yeah.
that's the sus part is like you touched on it exactly. Like she's been in the league for a long time.
Yeah.
So like a lot of this feels kind of like a second, like it's orchestrated, right? Like she knows
Sure.
exactly what she's doing. It's a
Right.
way to kind of like certainly also is pairing with Caitlin Clark and like being on the Fever and being this like in this enforcer role. I guess if you could say like her like the skill side of it, it's
Sure.
her defensive or guarding prowess or whatever. But like a lot of that is still tied up in the bravado. And I will say like Sophie Cunningham is also someone who's like politics have been fairly out in the open for seasons. So I also
even
don't really
prior
like
to this, you know,
other
like,
than if you're like a child, like if you're a
that's it.
kid
Yeah.
and you have a Cunningham jersey, like fine,
Yeah.
maybe your
Yeah.
parents should know better. But I think at this point, if you're like, yeah, I've been a fan of her for seasons, it's like, well, then you've also known everything that
Yeah.
comes with this person
Yeah.
for seasons. And I think there's like a willful, I know we like to say like you can just be a casual fan, and absolutely you can, but there is still always an element of the WNBA that's not, it is like it's active in terms of like its labor rights. It's active in terms of its like gender politics, queer politics, like it's progressive, like it's social progression, like everything, right? By nature, by virtue, since it was founded, it had to be, is predominantly Black and queer league, right? Like it sits at the cross sections of so many like cultural points that at this moment, especially in the States, but certainly in Canada, are very hot issues and being wielded as like hot button issues, right? And kind of in the scheme of identity politics too. So I mean, this is a league that's pushed back on those things since its like since its
Inception.
founding.
Yeah.
Yes.
So again, I think like you can be a fan, but you cannot divorce the foundational like presence of all of these things within the WNBA.
Yeah.
I
and
think
at
what you're
this
saying
point-
there. Oh, sorry. I'm just gonna add
Yeah.
on Katie's point right here.
Yeah.
Like, in almost, you know, as someone who has like traditionally followed like men's sports league, you can do that there. That is something that is
Absolutely,
more
you can
common practice.
compartmentalize, and it's encouraged, right? It's
And it's
encouraged usually
encouraged.
by the shareholders and like the
And-
governors, and yeah,
Absolutely. And I think that's like the difference, you know, as like someone, and I've like mentioned so many times before, like that has gone to become like a WNBA fan more recently, like in the last couple of years, it was that thing of like walking into a room that looks very familiar. We all broadly like the same thing. We like basketball, but the discussion around it, the fandom around it, the way they approach about it, what they care about is so different. So it's like that thing of, you know, you show up as a new person in a friend group and you're really understanding what the dynamics of that friend group is. Like you're really understanding like what flies, what doesn't fly. And I think the thing like which you broke down like so eloquently is just, this is just not the league where that kind of thing happens, where you can come in and I think that's like what is trying to happen. I think that's like kind of the fear, as much as we all love the idea of this new CBA agreement, bringing in more money, bringing more eyes, bringing more attention. The fear is absolutely being able to protect the space that this was built upon in the first place, and one that like is why I became a fan of the WNBA, and one that I hope like holds on as much as it can because like we're seeing like a really strong example in this of like something that's trying to regress a league that has been so progressive.
Yeah. All I was going to add was like at this point, we mentioned a little while ago of her maybe being passive for a while, but at this point she is like openly consented to being used as a pawn, and I think that is like what this whole
And she was more
movement-
declarative before she got so big. Like
Yeah,
that's the other part about
exactly.
it.
And
Yeah.
like at this point, like we can all probably agree that like again, these people who are pushing these arguments are not trying to like fight the good fight. They're trying to use again this moment, like Katie said, to get more eyes on their views, and anybody who is actively participating in it is just being okay with being used as a political pawn at this point because they're just the face of it. Like there's no other reason that they're specifically using Sophie Cunningham other than the fact that she is on this. She has a lot of eyes on her, and
she's palatable, right? She's a white, beautiful, like traditionally like pretty white woman. She has like I'm sorry, I was going to say left leaning, right leaning, very right of center leaning values. She like perfectly fits this moment in terms of like who is safe to champion and push. The last thing I'll say about it, Jerome, just on the note of like how much growth there's been for the W and money. Like by growth, I mean money, because I think that's where people start to get nervous, especially investors, though they'll say like we are very comfortable with having our brands and our names around this kind of these kinds of like ongoing discussions or conflicts, because I think that's like been the beautiful thing about the W for so long is like there can be contention, but it's worked through, and that's that's what makes it better. It's not a space where like everyone has to agree and have the exact same positionality. I think what's worked for so long is like if there's discomfort, the push-pull of it can improve things, right? It's like an inherently open space. So I want to say like there's not room for every kind of view.
No.
When you look at the backbone of who makes up this labor force. But the growing pains that I think we're seeing aren't necessarily a bad thing. They're just very uncomfortable because you can see it's through a lens of people who are just not familiar watching women's sports.
I'm glad you pointed that out. Yeah.
With like some of the basics of just like contact. There's a real discomfort with like physicality in women's bodies, right?
Right.
With like women's autonomy in anything. Like you can see the pinch points that is like a certain new subset of the audience or fan base, whatever you want to say, is uncomfortable with or is like learning to be comfortable with through this lens. My hope, whether naive or not, is that they can adapt and adjust if they want to keep watching, because it is a space that I don't think is going to bend to that side of things. But there is room for everyone. There's not like one way to be a WNBA fan.
No.
So I think like the influx, it doesn't spell doom and gloom. I think there's like on both sides, like I think the people that have been there for a really long time, whether that's media or fans, there's a real fear and kind of like clenching to what was, and such a fearfulness of losing it. But I think that identity is so baked in to the W at like so many different touch points that it's not going to go away. So it's okay to kind of like
it's a really good point.
It's going to happen, but like the growing pains to me are ultimately a good signal, because it means that things are progressing and people are paying attention, and sometimes you just have to push back a little bit harder on the points that don't necessarily align with the W.
Yeah, no, I think it could be so easy, like, because, as someone who's come in, like, the immediate thing is, like, this is, like, a utopia. This is perfect. Everyone's perfect, and they all have the perfect values. And, like, that's not the case. Like,
it's naive, too, right? Yeah,
it's naive
and it's
to think
discrediting. Yeah.
I think it's more of, like, a lot of it is reactionary to the experience of following men's sports originally, and then coming to this new space and seeing something that looks a little better than what you expected to experience as a fan. And yeah, I think a lot of it of learning it is like exactly what you said. It's the range of values. I think the big difference in like talking about a situation like this is even when you have like dissenting opinions going around across the league, the thing that they can like all agree upon and you like traditionally is that they were all still aiming for the same goal of growing and like building up this league. I think what we are describing, and like we can end on this point for here, is like the people that are coming in and doing things like this have no interest in the league whatsoever, have no interest in the players, have no interest in the women. And so therefore their opinions that they're bringing in have like nothing to do to like, you said, like add to a conversation to help grow or to go through growing pains. So, but like all of it to kind of go back to last night's game, I think there was like real sense of like, okay, Toronto for the most part had really shown up, like at least like the Toronto Tempo base and Toronto Tempo fans have done so, and it was really great to see. And
It made me very proud. It made me very proud of Toronto.
Absolutely.
And being from Toronto.
Me too.
And,
it was heartwarming.
What we also got to see, which is like a terrible segue from coming out of this series topic,
No, this is very important.
No, it's very
is-
important.
we got to meet the Toronto Tempo's new mascots, and
They were roommates.
they were roommates. Well, we could talk a little bit about what exactly is the relationship between them, but as you shared online. But meet the Tempo mascots. I'm gonna pull this directly from the like official press release, which I absolutely love. So we have Des and Dot. Des, they, is a borealis blue snapping turtle from Muskoka, Ontario. Their name is inspired by Decibel, a nod to their love of music and role as the more measured half of the duo. Des is calm, clever, and always thinking a few steps ahead. Dot, her, is an Arctic hare named for Toronto's longtime nickname T-Dot. Originally from the Arctic Circle, she brings seemingly endless energy, acrobatics, and enthusiasm to everything she does, making her the undisputed hype woman of the pair. It was a fever dream to see this happen. I don't know like how it went, like in the planning of the reveal. Like there was like a certain almost like WWE like feel to like, and that goes down to like the smoke. Like I'm gonna show,
Dude, the smoke.
so
The smoke
is
was
a
a
photo-
moment the whole night.
This is a photo I took here for those who are just listening of Dot coming out to the smoke. And so to kind of rewind a bit, we're in the second quarter. It's Katie, Scott Kamsel, and I trying to get our $25 meal voucher used on the concourse, but making a specific point of we better be back for halftime because we all know what we want to see. Mm-hmm. And the original plan was to probably stand around in the like 100 level media area and get a good view of it. And then I had suggested that we should move toward one of the VOMs that I'm pretty sure the mascots would be coming out of. Because when I first arrived to Scotiabank Arena for media and walked into the bowl, the first thing I saw was just smoke coming out of one corner. And I thought to myself, like, wait, like what is this? Like, what is this for? At first, very naively, I was like, wow, they're really going out of their way to welcome back Slim. But then it hit me immediately that this is obviously for the mascot. And so I think, what did I tell you? We got to follow the smoke.
Well, where you were like, we got to find the smoke. And what actually happened was like, we ran out of time. We were rushing back to 117 and
exactly.
We heard the countdown from inside the arena, like, because they did a countdown from 10 and we were so freaked. You were like, let's just go in here. So we ran down the end.
We did. Yeah.
That's like closest to Media Pass really came in handy to just like book it down all the steps. But we ran down to where
it got us all the way that we got to walk under like the stanchions. And,
I mean,
like,
you were
stand
quite
right in the
bold.
corner.
Jerome ducked under a stanchion so we could go stand where the camera crews do.
In fairness,
But they
the
didn't
security
stop
guard
us.
Doing the
security guard
most.
pulled it up
Yeah, yeah.
because they looked at me and then they're like, "Do you want to go through?" and pulled it.
I
was
just
like,
think he saw
"Well,
like
you're
the
offering it."
rabid dedication in your eyes.
And your
Yeah, yeah.
credential.
This
I
man
feel like that helped.
Won't be stopped. You know?
This is the most, like, just to paint the picture, like, I just bought this Britney Sykes shirt. So I'm like holding like a Fanatics bag,
Yeah, you had your
a water
Fanatics bag.
bottle, and a camera with a media pass. And it's just like, it's like, I guess
You
it's
didn't
like
really
if you're-
look like you belonged there to be.
Absolutely. It really had a feeling of, like if a crazed tourist like saw like a celebrity in a different country, it just ran toward them. Like that's
Come to
very much what it
Brazil.
looked like. Yeah. And so, yeah. And then we got in there and we were maybe perfectly positioned to like really be in the thick of it. And
Did you guys know that there was going to be two or no?
no, I freaked
Okay.
out.
I screamed.
I screamed.
We both screamed.
Yeah.
Like there could not have been a better like two people to experience this with. Like Katie, who I think we share so much of the same enthusiasm for things in basketball.
The
and then
whimsy
Scott,
of it all.
ever
crying,
grounded and measured and just like doing his like score due diligence and
Poor
really,
Scott is like video editing. He's like cutting like a social video, adding captions while this like it's still dark. There's smoke. They're like doing their inaugural dance like on the court, and I'm like, dude, what are you doing? He's like, I gotta finish the edit. So
I know,
real dedication there.
Oh man,
like,
yeah.
for the content. And so it really felt like a fever dream because we were watching and I'm trying to process because I'm like both looking down directly at the court but then looking immediately up at the Jumbotron or like the giant screen and just like watching Dot's moves and really like dissecting. I'm like, okay, how do I feel? I can't help but think about Ellie the elephant and like compare back and forth. And then before I know it, like I said, in a very WWE way, like it's almost like suddenly new music hits and they're like, but wait, there's more. And I think the first thing I said it was, it's a turtle.
Oh man, I would have paid to see that.
Yeah, and so I mean, gosh,
there's so much to unpack
in the DJ booth too, because her
DJ booth
because Des
the
is
pastime, is
spinning the ones and twos, so we got to get Des up there with Shannon quite a lot.
Jerome, you were a little bit like bereaved, kind of like you were like, oh no, like they're in the booth, like because we had just been up there. It's like we've got to pick.
Much like,
we're either down here or
gotta
up
pick our
there.
spots.
Yeah,
but then they came down, so it was good.
They came down, and I kept on. This is where I really was pushing, like maybe my security clearance here. I kept on edging toward like how much I can follow.
When they came off the floor, Jerome just like went with all of the Wranglers, and then I think you got a firm hand.
Yeah. Okay.
No.
So like not to like talk too much
done.
about like the behind the scenes, but like having worked for the Raptors, I just know the motions of like what happens when there's like a performance on court and where exactly they go back to and where like all the game
like
ops,
where
like,
the
goes
game
forward.
ops
Exactly. And so I was like, oh, just following them to the back. I'm sure they're all gonna gather together and like like celebrate this like first moment, and I'll just like snap a couple photos and it was cool. And what had happened was it looked like the two of them were heading toward like actually like a proper like where they might actually take off their costumes entirely and walk to the back. And as I was following like really locked in. So like I walked to the back, and as I started like following along, I just got a firm like, no, you gotta go and get out of here. I was like, oh yeah, right. And then I just did that. Which you would have thought would have stopped me, but then I just also still went back afterward and gathered that photo.
Yeah, gave it a beat. Then we all went back.
I love this.
And then you got the shot.
I got the shot.
Real
so like
boots on the ground.
One thing that I think we can all attest to as people who report and cover in media is if you just kind of station yourself somewhere, the amount of things that you can hear that would help you either for a story or for where to be
the lurk
is
game
like.
And
crucial. So what had happened was, I don't know if I mentioned it to you before at the game itself, Katie, I just overheard people working game ops say, we're all going to go take a photo with them in the back. And I was like, oh, interesting. So photo opportunities are now available.
You're like, listen. See, okay, my very first job in television, I had a mentor say to me, the best skill you can get in this industry is to eavesdrop. Now look at me here. That is my
now
job.
Look at me backstage with them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I took the very last photo of their photo op. So like basically like a lot of like the team was like all taking photos with them, and it was really nice. Staff in the back were taking photos, which was really cute.
That
like
was
you're talking
so
like
cute.
catering staff.
Arena staff.
They were just so excited about arena staff, security, all that. And then
I love them.
And like anyone who knows me, generally speaking, is like I think I do actually exude most of the time a pretty chill calm. Like if I miss an opportunity, if I see like a player, I'm not like dashing for them or anything like that. I'm just like, oh well, they went by and everything's okay. But this time around, I definitely went like, one more photo.
Just Dot over here.
Yeah,
over here.
We can just like, get over here, and then that's how they pose together. And but it is really great taking the photo, and as it's happening, hearing the person just go last one, and
the Wrangler.
Yeah. But, okay.
That's the tip. If we have any aspiring people who cover games, whatever, in here, the best people in that arena to befriend are the security guards.
Staff. Absolutely.
I love them. They are my homies. I love them so much. Yeah.
Also, walk around with blue hair. I feel like it's a little disarming. Like, there's a certain level of like, I know the credential says you're a serious person.
Yeah.
But you seem like a bit of a cartoon. Like you might be one of the mascots as well. So like, come on through, walk under the stanchion, do all these things over here. Okay, but like going back, like I think I've like waxed like way too long about this. Katie, you got maybe the first high five.
I did. Well, Dot left me hanging, but I think Dot couldn't see anything because I saw a couple other people complaining that like Dot left a few children hanging.
The smoke was a lot.
Trying to get out to the floor, and I think like the smoke.
To
but I also
get a
just
sense of
think
like the paparazzi feel of the moment,
familiarity
like,
with
this was.
As someone who's been in a mascot costume before, I can tell you
I need
the
that.
eyes in this thing are probably down around the mouth.
That's right.
So your spatial awareness, and like they're just getting used to it. How long have they had these suits for? How long have the people inside of them been in the suits? Probably
Not
that
everyone can
long.
be the raptor.
Yeah, so like, and that's decades of like that's like that suit is more of like the body to that performer, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Then
shout out to
they're
him.
just kind of like getting a line. So I wasn't when that one passed me by. I was like, oh, they just straight up can't see.
Yeah.
Right.
But Des, I left the hand out, and I got a real firm one.
We love Des.
Yeah,
It was really great. I think you said it was a really firm high five, and then when that happened, I think we both like were like, oh, this might be the first ever. Like first never fades. But
first never fades.
First never
First never
fades.
we described the on the ground experience. We didn't even get to you, Chelsea. Like first off, did you know going in?
Yeah, did you know in advance?
I knew that there was two,
Okay.
but not very.
I only
far
knew
in
that it wasn't a
advance.
beaver. Yeah.
Yeah, not very far in advance that I knew. And then
I'm so glad it wasn't a beaver or some like Canadiana.
Right.
Yeah.
like a moose or something.
So glad.
I had a dream last week. It was a goose, but anyways,
We
that was
talked
my
about this
subconscious.
dream.
That was my
Yeah.
subconscious playing tricks. But anyway, so and then then you get the press release, whatever. I knew like maybe 15 seconds before everybody else. Like it wasn't that. I'm not
okay,
I wasn't like
okay.
withholding scoop or anything.
It was kind of one of those
with
things that I
anyone.
think all of us wanted to kind of find out in the moment.
Yeah. I was like, because part of me, as my journalistic instinct was like, do I try and break this news? And then I was like, I feel like I don't want to like, shams this and we ruin the draft before it happens kind of vibe. So yeah, but anyways, we did get my first reaction was we get the press release as soon as they come out. Like, shout out to Tempo PR. So we get the names, we get the thing. And as soon as I saw the very in-depth descriptions of these animals, I was
love the
like,
biographies.
they have personalities, they have pronouns, they have lore. I was
Astrological signs.
astrological signs. I'm living for the lore, for the lore.
Never
and then
have we put more mask in the word mascot.
literally, they had. So yeah, my immediate thing was like, what's the dynamic here? And then they're dancing to like Who Run the World. So I was kind of giving my best little thing up there. But yeah, I mean, what can you? I was just like the whimsy right now is really out of 10.
It's hard
yeah,
to judge really early. Like I've seen a lot of commentary on it. Like a lot of people who feel like a certain way about like the designs or like the dancing, and like I share some of that feeling. Like there was like a certain
Come on. That's gonna come.
It'll come.
That's exactly what it is. Like I had the same reactions because of like how passionately I feel about mascots.
I will say,
yeah.
I did hear someone at some point say that I think it was the turtle suit only got there yesterday, so there wasn't very much
These
rehearsal
things were
time.
fresh. They were so they kind of like
They came out of the
they were
packaging.
I think they were off gassing like when they passed us, like a mattress does. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah,
Like, you could
exactly.
smell
So
the foam.
they didn't. Yeah, you could smell like the packaging. So you couldn't. I don't think they had much time to really get used to them, which is probably why they felt a little like disjointed.
Yeah. I don't
I'm
think
like,
they
actually-
were scary. I saw like a lot of people were like, they're so scary. I'm like, I don't know. Like, Ellie is obviously amazing and in a class by themselves.
Have y'all seen
but
Doppler? Like,
Ellie
bro.
like actually freaks me out because I feel like
Oh.
Ellie is so like unpredictable. But that's the persona of Ellie, right?
Right,
That's
right,
what the
right,
person
right.
We love
has like
Ellie.
decided. These ones, I don't know. I really like them. I think I'm just like blind to any fearfulness of them.
It's
I think
it
they're
could be
good.
a little bit of like the maybe more modern culture of like needing to have it in like a substantive declarative reaction and statement about a thing that you just
Yeah.
experienced.
Yeah, it's like when the tempo
Yeah.
were named, everyone was like, I hate this. And
yeah.
now everyone's
Yeah.
like, oh, it's okay. That's fine.
It's
I think
come
the
around.
same
I'm
thing-
like-
the same thing will happen.
Like how many people love the jerseys now after they've
Yeah,
been
dude.
panned for such a long
You
time?
see them in
know?
person, all
Yeah.
that. So,
They
yeah.
also, they got me when they did this as their first.
yeah,
That was very cute.
iconic
If
tempo.
they
Yeah.
actually brought the girl back out from like
They will,
Would have
one day.
It would have pushed me over the edge.
Yeah.
we would have like fallen to the ground. Security actually would have had to help us up. Like,
Yeah. I think like people keep asking me like how I feel about them, and like I feel like you don't have to have, yeah, like you said, you don't have to have a solid opinion on everything. And I also am someone who likes to appreciate the whimsy of things. So I'm like, you know what? At the end of the day, it's not that serious. It's a mascot. Like, come on,
Also,
guys.
as an adult, this is like the All-Star game. It's not for you anymore.
Yeah,
Those
yeah,
things
yeah.
aren't, they're for children. They're not for you anymore.
I
You
tell
don't get
this a lot
have an
to
opinion
people,
about
like
them.
as a big fan of like Marvel and MCU films.
Yeah.
And like I can definitely like go get into the weeds and like really get on it. Like I always have to pull myself at a certain point and be like, these are movies for kids.
They're for kids. Yeah.
Yeah. In this case, like the tricks are for kids.
Yeah.
So
The tricks are for kids.
you know, it is like really important that we have the three of us together for reporting on this in particular, because as
Yeah,
much as
dude.
like we did the on the ground work, the post work and reporting, which, you know, follow Chelsea, read her post work on TSN. One of the things that she really got to the bottom of immediately for us in lore was answer the question of what the relationship is. And Chelsea tweeted this out. I can confirm per sources that Dez and Dot, the Tempo mascots, are neither siblings or dating, just besties.
Yeah.
Now, first off, thank you for doing this reporting. Did you think you would be ratioed based on this?
I don't think.
No,
I don't know if I was ratioed.
No, you weren't absolutely. No, but like, did you think that there would be such pushback in the reaction to it?
I definitely knew that in tweeting this, it would get a reaction. I definitely, look, I know my audience online. I knew that people were not going to believe me when I said that they were not dating. But guys, I promise you my sources are legit.
Yeah.
I think, you know, and I agree with the people who were saying, you know what, we can let them yearn for a bit. We need a friends to lovers arc. We need, you know, and so I thought those tweets were very funny. But yes, when I
I'll read some
immediately,
for you right now.
Yeah.
So first off, historians will call them close friends, but I know what they are. Yeah, just like how Auntie used to bring her, in quotes, bestie to Thanksgiving dinner. One asked, fair question, are they roommates? And also here in a very specific way, so wait, are they queer polyplatonic partners? There's, you know, I think that's just going to be a lot of the fun, especially of having like the dynamic of it, and for them to start where they did, like again with that press release and like such detailed bios of it.
Oh, yeah.
And
my first
also,
question was like, are they roommates? Are they dating? I need to get to
Exactly.
the bottom. I
They were
spent the
roommates.
whole rest of the game trying to get this scoop, guys. I was doing my
real
journalistic.
Double
I had to
standard at work
rewatch
here,
the
though.
second. Sorry?
We've never wondered this about Stripes on the Raptor. So I feel
That's
like
exactly
real-
it.
Real
This is-
double standard.
Like, not
Stripes,
to-
but Stripes and the Raptor give me like brothers or like dad and son.
Why that could just be
I actually
That is-
do
but
think
yeah, you're
gender
right.
gender normative.
You're so right, Katie.
Dude.
I'm so sorry for being.
And what about
heteronormative.
Gigantor?
Oh, where does Gigantor fit into the mix? Where does the
What
the
thruple is Gigantor in?
the one that flips
Oh yeah, the inflatable.
the
Yeah.
Raptor cinematic universe? Wow.
Well, I mean, that is like with all the detail of it, and like it actually, you know, not to like sound like serious about it, it does kind of give a good open lesson to like You can have your fun. You can, and these are mascots, and you can like suggest whatever you want about it. But like very much in a space like this, like a lot of the attention that comes upon any player, character, anything like that, also should come with a certain level of discernment of like you can project whatever you want on them, but don't assume. Just
I love
don't
that you're
assume
bringing
things.
this back.
It's a good lesson.
It's a good lesson.
It's a good
We got to
lesson. I mean,
respect Des and Dot and their whatever their relationship is. I hope to build my own friendship with them, and maybe they'll give me an inside scoop eventually if they do go friends to lovers. But
one of the ideas I had, which I know was like just not going to fly, was to do an immediate like post interview with the two of them. Which would just be me asking questions and them just
then,
like staring
handling.
blankly. Yeah, exactly. But you can tell like where my priorities were on the night. But no, welcome to them. I'm really excited for the journey that we're going to go on with them.
Yeah.
I'm glad that we have at least like a couple of home games left. Like, of
I
course,
feel
the
like
ones
they could be in Vancouver. I mean,
feel
I
that they
think Des.
must go to Vancouver.
I
Oh, yeah,
feel
they're
like Des
going
and
on a
Dot.
road trip.
Oh,
They're going on a
yeah.
road trip.
Yeah.
Des and Dot are
They
gonna
just got off
Even
of
if
their
it's for a
road
photo
trip.
op, I
Yeah.
do kind of need to see like footage or photos of them on the charter, just sitting there waiting to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We could. I feel like we have ins.
Yeah, exactly.
We got links.
I mean, the other thing that's like a part of it, which is like very funny now knowing what they are, is I think I mentioned it on last show, but I have asked friends that work with the organization like way early on, preseason, as they were putting together the team, putting together the roster, if and when there is a mascot, could I try on the costume? And now I just don't know which way I would go.
Yeah. Wow.
I think I'm
like
leaning
who-
toward.
Poignant.
I'm leaning more toward Des to be, just because I think
You
the turtle
identify
costumes are just
more
really cool.
with their energy.
I mean, like I have to figure out what their energy is. We
Yeah,
just met
fair,
them.
fair.
I just don't want to jump to that conclusion. I think mostly just like functionally, I just think something about wearing a turtle costume seems fun.
Oh yeah. with
Maybe
the
this is
shells,
like
I
my
think.
growing
dance
up like
like
a
Des.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle fan. Like maybe that's in play there.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I think I'm leaning Des right now. I also like here. I'm gonna see if I can like grab this photo.
Des will
quickly. Actually,
be
not.
probably, again, as someone who's been in a couple of mascot costumes, Des is probably the heavier costume.
Yes.
I think there is
The
a
the
level.
head-
the head on Dot might have a fan in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's all like fair and good. I think, and again, I wonder, just like, especially once you really start getting to like choreographed performances and things like that, like how these really function, and like whether there's going to be like design upgrades that need to be done.
You're
in
like,
order
what
to,
can
like-
these things do? Is that
Can
why
they
you wanna
I
do
try it
flips?
on?
Can they do acrobatics? Can
You're like,
they
let's open this
death
puppy up.
drop?
I
Can
didn't-
they?
I mean, this poll only has come to mind right now, but I did just this weekend go to TIFF for like they have like this Nolan retrospective, and The Dark Knight played, so I rewatched The Dark Knight for the first time in full for a long time, and there is a real scene where. In Batman Begins, for people who haven't watched the series, the original Batman suit is a very like large and like hard to move around suit. And there is a scene in The Dark Knight where Bruce Wayne says like, I need to like turn my head. I need to have that movement. And I wonder if we're going to get to moments like that once we really put these characters to the test of like what they're able to do. Like how
100%.
comfortably can Dot do a death drop? We need to know these kind of things.
My favorite tweet, I think, of the night was the fact that someone said Des needs to be on the next iteration of Stud Buds at All Star. Because the mascots do go to All Star. So I
Right.
think Des and Dot will be coming to San Francisco next
We
year.
saw just this last like All Star the introduction of what could be relationships between
and
just the
Ellie could get in the mix.
I saw it was really like to speak to I guess representation. I saw like some fans that I got to meet through like the Tempo, and a fan who like does like really good illustrations and designs, but they posted a photo of Des and Dot side by side of them and their partner, and they just went, "Hey, wait a minute."
Oh my god,
which is like
so
fantastic.
good. When I tell you, I came home pretty late and I was on my couch just like I don't know if anybody else relates to this, but when you come home from like work or a game or an event and you just have to like decompress for like an hour before you go to sleep, no matter how tired you are. So I'm on my couch scrolling through all these tweets and I was cackling. Like some of these, if you're in this and you're like, go to my tweet about them not being a couple or go to the one where I, describe them and look at the quotes and the replies. They are so funny. Like I was cackling at all of them. I'm like, and I think that's the fun of it. Like you might have your opinions on how you like or don't like the mascots, but like the point of it is like this fun stuff.
Here, I'll read a couple of them right now as I pull this up. That won't stop me from calling them a lesbian couple, by the way. The Friends to Lovers arc comes in season 2, which we do work in seasons, and we are coming upon a season 2. Slow burn. One bed trope during a cabin trip to British Columbia. Des kisses Dot. I also have not vetted any of these, so as I'm reading this line, I don't know what I'm about to read.
Now you're doing fanfic.
They don't know what it means. Was it a one-time thing? Des gets a concussion on the ski trip. Wakes up Dot sitting by the hospital bed, worried. Des confesses she's loved Des the whole time.
I love these.
This is pure fanfic.
There's already fanfic, and we're not even 24 hours from
Look, if you see some fanfic pop up on AO3, I'm not going to not say it was me, but no, I'm kidding.
Mascot situationship. That's what they all say. Right. Every sapphic knows what that means. I know lesbians when I see them.
I saw someone quote the original, like my original, this is Des and Dot, the Tempo mascots. Someone quoted saying like, something about like this is a gay turtle, and then the immediate reply was me with a quote of my like Des, she, they, and being like, I knew it. I know when I see him. I'm like, oh my god,
gosh. But yeah, no. It really in a night full of so many different things to like place in between what I felt was like a chaotic and whimsical and like just super fun introduction. Like really what a night. Like in a way that I think in the grand scheme of things and as we move forward, like we will remember more of these things, thankfully, than like what could have been what it was. Last couple of bits here. I'm gonna pull this in and give, Chelsea the floor here to describe what this experience was, and we'll just watch this live together. For those, again, to remind everyone, Chelsea is on the TSN broadcast as pregame hits. I believe we'll do some postgame hits from time to time, writes for every game for them, and also features for TSN. And yesterday, Ultimate Pro move here got interrupted during her live hit.
Now, her role in the locker room did not change very much. Hi, Sean Desmond. And very excited for today's Tempo game as well for Brittany Sykes. But yeah, she stayed a vocal presence in the locker room, both on tough days and on good days. Now, Sandy Brondello did say that she did not change very much.
So for those who are only listening, Sean Desmond, Canadian pop legend, was at the game. It was a Portuguese cultural night. There was like a couple of different groups that were, or is that what you were just calling it?
I mean, it was a Portuguese cultural night for me.
He delivered the game ball. But
he delivered the game ball. Yeah.
Unclear.
Which is really great. And how was it meeting one of your fellow country people?
My countrymen. I mean, it was funny because we stand. There's that place behind like the baseline where we stand, and that's where a lot of like if celebrities come to the game will kind of be. And so I've seen quite a few celebrities in that thing, and you're kind of like, oh, that's so cool, like that's whoever, right? But we're trying to do our jobs, be professional. You don't want to like interrupt people, whatever. Like I was like, I'm not gonna go up to him, like that's weird. So then you're
not gonna chase him down like I did the mascots, is what you're saying?
So I'm talking with Zulfi and Ian there, and I'm like, oh my god, guys, that's Sean Desmond, like, Portuguese icon, like, and so, but then I was like, okay, I gotta go do my hit. So I'm like mid-hit, and it's funny, because I still get nervous before hit, so I'm like, trying to do my thing, and then I see out of the corner of my eye, people coming to, like, walk to see their baseline seats, And I'm like, oh, like, but we have a producer there. There's people who are there to be like, oh, like, you know, they're live. Be aware. So I'm doing my hit, and then out of the corner of my eye, I see him because I knew what he was wearing, and he like pops in. So I'm like, oh my god, like, and then I'm so solely focused on trying to like get back on track and make sure that like I don't ruin my hit because I'm still new at this, you know. Mm-hmm. So I finish the hit, it goes well. Even like in my ears, I'm hearing like Tamika and Nikki kind of joking about like, oh my god, Sean Desmond, blah blah. The funny part is on the broadcast itself, there was video over, like they were showing Sykes highlights while it happened.
Okay.
I didn't know this at the time, so I'm, you know, so
this footage that we're sharing here wasn't actually like didn't.
I'll tell you, I'll tell you how I got that after. But anyway, so. I hear, and then I hear, like, our producer Dave in my ear being like, you're all clear, you're good, and I, like, fangirl. Like, Reagan was standing. Great. Reagan had kind of come after, so she didn't see Sean Desmond at first. She came after, and I literally looked at her, and I was like, Sean Desmond came into my hit! And she was just like, what? Like, we're, like, screaming at each other over the thing. And then he was standing, like, 10 feet away from me, and I was like, I'm gonna be so mad at myself if I don't do anything. So I went up to him, and I was like, oh my god, that was so fun. Like, you know, a huge fan. Like, I'm Portuguese, whatever. And he was like, oh my god, he gave me this big hug. He was like, oh, I hope that was okay. I was like, no, it was great. Like, whatever. I told him to put Tia Marie on Spotify, which is like one of his OG songs. He used to go around in Canada and come to Portuguese festivals and sing that song when he was a kid. So he came to our Portuguese church in Cambridge back in like the early 2000s or the 90s to sing that song at our church. Lore. So yeah, then we had a great moment, and then I go back up, and I'm like, oh my god, guys, like Sean Desmond, and then it's my producer who texted me. He was like, oh, there was video over it, and I'm like, amazing. no, like, so then I text our producer in the truck, and I'm like, Dave, like, please tell me there's a way I can get this video, even though there was like a graphic over it at the time. Sure, yeah. And he was like, yeah, I got you, just like wait till after the game and I'll pull it. And I was like, bless. Fantastic. Shout out to our broadcast crew. So I fangirled the whole game, and then we come back home after. Shout out Dave, he sends me the thing. And then someone in the stands, actually, like someone that I know,
you
just
posted
through
the
covering,
photo of you.
Yeah, had taken a picture of him and I hugging, and so I posted that. And he saw it, and then he followed me on Instagram, so now we're buddies. And then
that's official now.
It's official, yeah. And then got the footage and posted it today. But it was just like, it's funny because like, obviously I've been a fan of him my whole life, and like, but you know, you're doing your job, you're trying to like, you know, remain professional, whatever, and then funny things like that happen. And I mean, I'm still in my first year of doing broadcast stuff, so sometimes I'm like a little, but stuff like that happens, and I'm like, okay, just like keep going and whatever. And the hit itself, I think, was a success, so it was just funny. It was a good moment. But my mom was like freaking out. She was like, oh my god. But yeah, awesome. It was good.
No, that's really great. I think like. It is really funny how doing this job can like pull you into meeting people that you like never would come across. Like, you know, we posted it on the account, but like as a WWE fan, as I mentioned, like met Trish Stratus.
Oh my god, that was really iconic.
Cool. Huge for you.
Yeah, huge for me. Really disappointed for Scott, who decided to not come down with me, and didn't know I was going to do that.
I know. Anyway, I had some FOMO when you sent me that picture. I was like, Trish Stratus.
She's very lovely. But
was that your last best? I feel like my last best was at Summer League when I met Ron Artest and talked to him for a long time at the tunnel.
That's cool.
Really,
yeah.
He's so lovely. He was like, yeah, I'm teaching. I'm coaching. I'm assistant coaching a girls' high school basketball team right now, but I'm not very good because I have a hard time sitting back and like not like, oh, you should be the head coach then.
Yeah,
that's so funny. Yeah. No. I mean, like, I think all these interactions, like, we could definitely go through it. I'm sure a lot will come to mind, but like, it is a really fun and weird space. Before we get to our last bit, we're going to let Katie go first. Katie, thank you so much for joining and really reliving last night in all its forms. Before you go, can you just let people know where they can find your work, which I'm such a huge fan of?
Basketballfeelings.com, mainly, but all over the internet. But basketballfeelings.com.
Right, perfect. Katie, thank you. You're free to go.
Thanks.
And we'll see you soon, okay?
Bye.
Bye.
All
right, Charles. Yeah. Super happy for you. It is really funny thinking about like Sean Desmond because I remember when he was out, like I was in high school then, and maybe it is like a beautiful thing about like Portuguese people that they will let you know who is Portuguese.
Oh, always. I'm gonna let you know.
Always.
We got my
Yeah.
flag. Where's my flag? There we go. Got to put the Portuguese flag.
There you
in there.
go. And I remember, I forget what like it was a friend of mine who was dating a girl in high school at the time who like never failed to let me know that she was Portuguese first and foremost. But
100%.
I remember asking like, hey, what are you two doing this weekend or whatever it was? And they're like, we're going to go see Sean Desmond. I'm like, oh, that's cool. And then immediately she informed me like, he's Portuguese, by the way. And I was like, okay, well, there you go. And that's how I found out. Okay, the last bit that we're going to go over here, as we mentioned, you know, it is really funny to do this show and feel like so whimsical and joyful for the most part, knowing that they are in the middle of an 11-game losing streak.
Doesn't feel
And
like it, honestly.
It doesn't really feel like that. They have another game tonight, immediate back-to-back, Washington Mystics. We'll see how that goes, and then they go on the road to play as a home team in Vancouver as part of the Canada
Dog,
Cross Country Series.
When I tell you I have so much, I haven't packed. I need to check into my flight.
We'll get you out of this show so you can.
No, we're
definitely get
good. We're
on
good.
that.
I got
But,
all day. We're good.
But the last bit here, because like we said we would start doing this, especially now that they're in the mix, is we would visit ahead because one thing that has changed since last night with the loss, they have now taken the second most likely odds for the number one pick in the 2027 WNBA draft, which means they are one step closer to potentially getting Juju Watkins, should Juju Watkins make herself available for the season to come. And as part of the practice, we decided we would always go to Tankathon and see how many tries, simulations it would take until. So right now you see the Connecticut Sun at number 1. And
We're getting close, though.
Yeah, and you have the Toronto Temple there at number 2. Per your suggestion, we're going with the mock draft versions just so we can see what is like currently the mock draft. So we have Juju Watkins projected as number 1, Hannah Hidalgo
Yeah.
at 2, Madison Booker. If not Juju, you're a big fan of Madison for the team. I know that.
Yeah.
But let's
Let's
Go
do
ahead.
this and then let's do the sim and then I do want to
Okay.
kind of touch on the draft a little bit, but
Sure.
let's do the sim first.
Okay, so unlike when we would do this in covering the Raptors, we're going to see how many sims does it take to get the number 1 pick. So we're going to start here. Sim number 1.
Oh,
Okay,
boo!
drops down. Madison Booker at 3. Second try. Drops even further down.
Bro,
And
Yeah!
then on 3 tries, right there, Juju
let's
Watkins,
see how much it
number
takes
1.
me. We'll see how long it takes me. I'm
right,
not going
go
to share
for it.
my screen, but let's see. Oh, Seattle again? Bro. 2. It took me 2.
So, 2 for you, 3 for us officially. I'm doing air quotes here on the show. But yeah, you said you wanted to touch upon the draft a bit. Talk to me.
Yeah, so I'm seeing a lot of online discourse right now talking about this draft, and it is quite interesting given that the NCAA just gave all of the athletes a 5th year of eligibility. And so a lot of people are concerned about who's going to be available for the draft, who's not going to be available for the draft. I will say, there is some incentive for certain players to stay in college extra time. They make a lot of money. Like that's
And very similarly to European players coming to the WNBA because of like the salary incentives, NIL has really changed a lot of like what college players might be more incentivized to do. Like what they could be making as a college player versus their rookie contracts can be a significant difference depending on who the player is. And in Juju's case with the injury and what people have suggested with how close Juju feels toward wanting to help USC win a championship, there is a possibility that should she not succeed to do so this season, and I guess depending on how it finishes off, she may want to give it one more shot.
Yeah.
But like you mentioned, there are a lot of like considerations. For her to wait another year, she'd be competing with a lot of like high level players. But yes, go ahead, Chelsea.
No, and I was just going to say, on my end, I've been trying to get a sense of, what people on our end, in the media and in the basketball world think of one, this new rule, and two, how it's going to affect people this year. Because I've talked to people who are like, nobody's going to declare. None of these, like, they're all going to come back. They're all going to come back. I've also talked to other people who are less so panicking and think, okay, there's a lot of incentive for some of these top picks to declare. And so if you're projected to go, say, in the lottery, there is a little bit more incentive for you to come and play in the WNBA. So I do think there's going to be a lot of discourse about it. There's going to be a lot of people to say, like, and the hard part is too with the WNBA is that you don't really know who's going to be available until closer to March Madness or even after, because they don't have to declare until sometimes 48 hours after they get eliminated from March Madness. So I do think
this isn't a thing where like it's a preseason thing. Like you may not find out until almost the point of like figuring out where your draft spot is.
Exactly. But on the other hand, this rule, this new 5-year eligibility was thrust on these programs very recently and very suddenly. And so I do think there's a lot of scrambling right now when it comes to recruitment. And I do think there's going to be maybe some decisions made earlier because some of these programs need to be like, okay, well, how many people do we need to bring in next year? You know, so there's this sense of like
Women's basketball forced to make immediate adjustments off of something like brand new. Never heard of it.
Wow, never heard of it. So I don't know. I do want to like cautiously say that like there is going to be a lot of discourse about whether or not people like Juju or Hannah or Madison or literally anybody will be available for the draft. And I think, you know, obviously we're fun saying like tank for Juju or Juju this, Juju that.
Sure.
So I don't know. I still am trying to figure out where I stand on like who I think will be available or what I think will happen. I think the college season will be a big indication of that. But at the same time, for someone like Juju who is so pro ready and I don't think will have an issue making money when she comes to
she already
the
has
league.
a Nike deal and like could be having a shoe like pretty soon.
Yeah. So anyway, that's going to be the discourse with the draft this year. That's how the new eligibility works. It's very up in the air. So, I mean, it's going to be really hard to mock draft. And so obviously we'll talk about this when the college season starts, but
it's also
that's
way
kind of
too early to mock draft.
Way too
so
early.
Like,
way too early.
If you think about any like form of like professional basketball, like you wait until at least the tournament is over.
But it's hard.
But it's much harder, of course, like in the WNBA sense, like that you're doing it live.
And I mean, we'll see if we get some people making definitive decisions early just based on how they feel. And there's another sense, too, where like some of these players are like 23, 24 plus. And at a certain point, you want to leave college and start your life. Like, there's also a sense of like, because these college programs, a lot of the times, I mean, you're getting these
about,
fresh.
Like the length of a pro career and how much you actually want to do it as a professional.
Exactly. And like how much you want to be treated as a college student as opposed to being treated as a professional adult. I feel like I knew at the end of my college like life, I was like, oh, I'm excited to like be a real adult. Like, and as much as I would go back now, like, you know, after years of living as a real adult. But I think there's almost a sense because these college programs, not that they're treating anybody like children, but there's more rules, there's more, you know, and some people might be ready to just take that next step personally as well. So there's so many dynamics to think. You can't just think about the money. There's so many dynamics to think about.
No, absolutely. And no, I think like because there are so many things to think about and we'll like close out here, it's really like the practice of doing this is just fun and like to just remind people like where the Tempo are at. Like right now the Tempo have the second best odds of getting the number one pick, and that
Could
number
have
one
the
pick
first.
could be Juju Watkins when it's all said and done, but we will have to actually wait until we get there. And again, in the meanwhile, like I mentioned, like at the time of this recording, there is a Washington Mystics game tonight on the road. The team flew out immediately after the game and now are getting prepped for another one. So tune in if you can, give that a watch. And then Chelsea, you're going to be flying out to Vancouver for the two cross country Canada games.
Cross Canada, whatever.
Or Cross Canada series, I believe it's called. Thank you. And so they will be playing the Portland Fire and the Las Vegas Aces, I believe.
Yep. Portland on Friday, Vegas on Sunday.
And as I've been saying all season so far, please get at least one Portland Fire win, maybe 2 to even out the series, because they are the other expansion team. And if there's any part of me that might be a little petty, is I don't want to lose to the other expansion team.
Yeah. We'll see what happens on Friday.
Chelsea, remind everyone where they can find your work.
tsn.ca, and if you want my real boots on the ground reporting about the love life of the mascots, hit me up on X, Threads, or Instagram as well. If you want to be cool like Sean Desmond, follow me on Instagram.
From names to logos to now mascots,
Yeah,
like
here we are.
That is your brand. Thank you everyone for listening. Thank you everyone for supporting trans people and trans rights.
Yep.
And thank you for, just being an amazing fan base. And we'll see you next time.